Alright, Diablo 4 players, today we're going to be talking about the future of Diablo and kind of find out what some people want. There was a thread that was getting some traction over here, and it's basically talking about the next season of Diablo, and of course, we are getting another expansion, but what do you guys want to see? This is going to be an open discussion, so feel free to go ahead and chime in as a Diablo partner. Sometimes some of these ideas are really good that you guys come up with, and I can relay them to Blizzard directly. So for starters, there was a poll over here, and it says, what would you like to see from the next season, or at least this year? It was asking about loot filter, slowed progression, so the monsters will have more HP, more damage, and defense. And then there's more endgame content, more classes, revamp of all classes, some love for tempering, and then the other option is Diablo 4 is fine as it is. So looking at the results over here, it looks like most people actually said that they did want to see more endgame content. And then the second most requested feature is actually a loot filter. But I also wanted to go ahead and go into the thread and see kind of what other people want to see, and then I'll also show you guys kind of my personal take on some of these. So for starters, one person, and it's going to be sorted by who's ever gotten the most upvotes, so more likely more people will agree with these, but again, feel free to let me know your guys' thoughts. So first off, this person was talking about repurposing the Uber Lilith to be an actual Pinnacle boss with corresponding rewards. I think this is a big thing, because if you make the boss super hard, like back in Season 0, there's very few people that actually had that achievement of killing Uber Lilith, because, well, you couldn't really one-shot her with a lot of builds, and sometimes people would actually pay for a carry in the Uber Lilith boss fight. But there was really no point to doing this boss. It was kind of just like, hey, I did it, that's it, right? So I think that that would be a really cool thing, but what can you actually do in terms of giving us rewards? Does that mean, oh, it should guarantee just keeps on dropping mythics, but then that at that area, would you just be farming mythics? Because that's the highest form of like end game acquisition of items. Like if you ask what is the rarest things that currently exist in the game, it would be mythic items. However, maybe they can think about making it so then they start dropping triple GAs. That could be like a guaranteed, or at least a higher chance as far as like corresponding rewards, because again, if the boss is not dropping something good, why do it, right? But they were talking about maybe scaling the difficulty to your highest level of pit, so then you'd be incentivized to go do a pit 150. Now, just going ahead and playing kind of both sides here, this makes it so some classes will not be able to do it, like straight up. Like there are classes that just aren't on the same level. If we compare Necromancer to, say, Spiritborn this season in Season 7, these are pretty big differences. We're talking way more times in terms of damage. So the person also mentioned lair bosses to be given the resilience affix that protects them from one-shot kills. The thing is that there's so many builds that take so fast anyways. Like if you're playing Cataclysm Druid, that thing is ticking so fast anyways. Even if it doesn't die in one hit, it may take like 5 seconds and it's dead. Does that really change up things? I don't know. Unless they make it so the boss can only take a certain amount of percent damage. And at that point, then you kind of feel like your builds are useless when you look at the way that, you design your character to get more and more powerful. If they limit you based on like how much percent damage that you can deal, then players kind of feel like, well, it doesn't matter how much I put in my character, I just can't output the damage. So there's again both sides to it. And then the return of trials, leaderboards, and I'll talk about this in a moment here, but I think that that could be an interesting thing. As the Undercity, like when you go into the cross, when you're using those tributes specifically, I felt like they had really cool ideas with it. It's like, okay, I can try to farm specifically rings and stuff, but is anyone really using their tributes? Like I'm sitting with inventory just full of tributes that I honestly am never going to be using. If I'm farming the Abdusite, that's great. And maybe like if I'm popping the one for mythics, but overall, I want to say that I'm not really going to the Undercity. A lot of the newer things that got added into Vessel of Hatred, where we also have those raids, right? Those raids don't really feel like they are something special that you do more than once. They were honestly really cool the first time, but I think that they could be something that we do a little bit more often in terms of for rewards, as in like pretty much most people, they do the raid once, maybe they get the cosmetic and that's it. They don't want to do it again. I feel like the magic kind of leaves because you learn how it works, and after you're like, oh, that's really cool, I get to reflect this and it'll projectile to the boss. I think they did a great job on that. However, would I want to do that again and again? I don't know, but I like the idea of these things where you have to kind of work together, like, oh, this person stands over here, but because they have to be done in a group, I think it leads to frustration when people like go in for the first time. You get mad because like the guy didn't know, he genuinely didn't know that he had to stand over here, he had to do X, Y, and Z, or he grabbed the object, he has to put it over here, he has to match up the colors or the little shape or something. I think that there is some cool ideas with this, and maybe they can build up upon this later down the line. And then as far as Strongholds, let them retake them during Hell Tides. I think that I've seen this comment again and again where they're like, okay, do something with Strongholds. I think to do the Strongholds again and again, I think at some point it would get repetitive, but at least any forms of new content, it would be great, especially if we can add the ability to get other forms of upgrades in the game. Whether it's you want to do the ability to get glyphs or getting the Obducite, those two areas, like you kind of have to do kind of one thing again and again. And to mix it up, maybe getting some other rewards. Like right now, you can currently get Obducite via the like Mercenary barter system. So the more ways that we can get certain forms of like endgame content, I think it'd be better just because some people get kind of burnt out of doing the same thing again. Because it's specifically with the pit where like this is the only place that you can level up your glyphs, and you got to do it again and again. If you want XP, you got to do the pit again and again, right? So I think that kind of spreading things out, allowing you to get materials from other sources would be great. Someone else was talking about the Strongholds to clear multiple bosses, kind of like Infernal Hordes, maybe you fight waves. Again, I think that any forms of new content would be great over here. And then also, this person said the completion of the story here. I think that will come in the expansion for sure, and that should be in 2026. And then someone was talking about the cow season, maybe a secret cow level, or just a secret level in the game. There is kind of a secret, and you know what? Because there's a lot of people that are maybe newer to the channel, if you guys haven't seen, there is kind of a secret cow level in the game, and there is a reward that you can get if you want to go ahead and do it. It's a cosmetic, and I'll link that video down below. It is crazy long in terms of like how much it requires to get it, so just watch the video, because if you want to try to get it, I'm going to warn you guys, it takes a really long time. But I think that having these sort of Easter eggs in the game, maybe there already is a cow level, we just haven't figured it out yet. But I think that would be kind of an interesting thing. I'm just going again by what everyone's going by in terms of sorting, and like I said, I'll tell you mine after. But then we have the icon where a sigil is a whisper dungeon to sell all, and then allow us to skip different acts in the campaign. So I guess they're looking for like a campaign plus. That I think that would be kind of an interesting thing to maybe go to some of the areas. I think that we have that Realm of the Hatred, and we didn't really utilize that all that much. You know, maybe we can have an area they can use some of those tile sets for like a brand new form of endgame content. I think that would be cool too. And then they'd like to see the ability to change Paragons without removing all subsequent points first. I think this is a pretty big design issue, and the reason why is there's a lot of things that in the order of the Paragon boards, how it works is that things will cost more and more in terms of like your strength, dex, and there was like a glitch that you could do before where you would input one and then actually input a second one and then close the other one, and it would cause a lot of issues. This is a design issue that was probably going to be a nightmare, and I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Diablo 4 has gone through so many bugs, and the ability to either swap boards or move them, that's going to cause the team a lot more issues, and I'm sure that there's going to be bugs where certain things aren't working. It is annoying, but I want to say that it'd be cool to do it, like for sure, awesome. I mean, if you go to any like build website, Maxroll, Mobilytics, we all have the tools to just swap the boards. Yeah, it'd be great for the game, but realistically, I would say that this is just going to cause a nightmare. So I honestly don't see this one happening, but I get it. It would be nice, right? Endgame progression past clearing high pit levels, and I absolutely agree with you on that. Just more forms of endgame content, which I'll mention some of the cooler things. And then also someone mentioned snapshotting gone and more build diversity, which we'll talk about also, and I'll go more in depth on that. Sork complete rework, improvements to masterworking tempering. So I've heard this one a lot, specifically masterworking tempering. I think that checkpoints would be good. Now, I don't really mind that there is some RNG with an action RPG that's like, finally I got my thing, because it feels good when you hit that masterwork multiple times. But the way that it's acquired, I want to say, for me personally, I think that Diablo 4 is in a state where this game is going to be meant for casuals, and Path of Exile is going to be the hardcore action RPG game, where we don't really have a game that has like a really good middle ground right now. I would say Last Epoch was kind of our game, but to be real with you guys, I think until maybe Last Epoch 2 or maybe the new Wolcen game, we don't have like a middle ground action RPG right now. It's either you play PoE, which is really hardcore, or Diablo, which kind of feels too casual, right? And there needs to be some sort of middle ground. However, the masterworking tempering is like very rough, especially for like people that are brand new to action RPGs. And in terms of like looking at a build guide, some build guides are like, oh, you need a triple masterwork the cooldown reduction on a greater affix Harlequin. That is really annoying. So I think I want to also mention specifically greater affixes in this discussion here. I think that it'd be cool to get like scrolls of like greater affix. You can go ahead and either add a random greater affix, or you can randomize where the greater affix is, because like getting greater affix life per 5 seconds of like 10 is not very good. So it'd be cool if like when those drop, you can randomly either re-roll whatever that greater affix is, or it randomly moves to another like slot of one of the, well, they don't call it prefixes or suffixes. Basically, you get 3 stats in the game and it randomly rolls to one of them or something like that. And then also adding GA. So then we're constantly upgrading our items, maybe at the end of like some sort of Pinnacle boss, when we're talking about like rewards for doing bosses that are harder. It'd be cool to get a scroll of greater affix, which just adds another greater affix. That way you have a better sense of progression, like always kind of upgrading your character, which is something that kind of Diablo 3 did with like the gems. You'd constantly get upgrades, right? Whereas here you go in, and after, you know, I'm Paragon like 200 plus, I'm just slamming the pit again and again. And in my head, like, yeah, I'm getting glyph upgrades, but I think it'd be cool to kind of have a better progression with your items as well. So I think checkpoints would be really good at masterworking and tempering. I think that, I mean, if it was personally for me, I think that you can also drop things to retemper again, because you can only technically retemper an item one time, basically, with the scroll that like lets you retemper, right? So I think it'd be cool to have those to be infinite. That way, like, you can never essentially brick an item, because it kind of feels bad to brick an item. And I get it from the viewpoint of, if there is no risk with the item, it doesn't make your brain excited. And that's kind of a design decision that a lot of video games have, because if there is no risk and you know that you can always upgrade, it doesn't feel as good when you hit it, but it also feels painful when you miss. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. I want to say, for the most part, it's probably in Blizzard's best interest to just give you checkpoints at the masterworking. So once you get to like 4 out of 4, you can, like, when you reroll, it doesn't reroll to 0 out of 12, it rerolls to whatever the previous one was. So then if you get on the 8th masterworking, if you don't like that, it doesn't go back to 0, it goes back to 4, and then you can go from 4 to 8, and if it doesn't go the right way, you can go again. And that way, they're still kind of like, oh, didn't get it, whatever. And then when you finally get it, it feels better, but that way it doesn't feel as painful. But same thing with like the tempering could be a little bit different though, because that essentially you can kind of brick. Masterworking, you can keep on doing it infinite times, and I think that tempering could be looked at for that reason too. But it kind of sucks sometimes when you get a low roll of something, and then like I want to upgrade the roll. Oh wait, I just got something completely different, and you didn't want it to. So that can kind of feel bad. So I think that if we retemper like an item that already has one, we can save it, kind of like when we go to the occultist and we re-enchant, right? Or we re-roll like the rolls on like what items, we can like keep the old one. I think that that'd be cool for tempering, but you guys can let me know your thoughts on that. And this person says Sork rework. Okay, so here's kind of what I was thinking about in the game over here. So I think more endgame is kind of the key here. If we look at player retention rate, specifically with Diablo and other action RPGs, this is where the retention rate past the first week, it's pretty rough for all action RPGs, okay? It's not just Diablo. So I was thinking about what would actually lead to cool stuff here. And this is my thoughts, and you guys can let me know yours, and I'll probably do a write-up and send this to Blizzard, because I want more content too. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this. So I think actual hard content would be good. New Pinnacle bosses, not just getting a boss and then just cranking the numbers up. Like Lilith boss fight, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of a cool boss fight, like one time if you do it properly, but sometimes it can feel a little bit unfair with some of the hitboxes, but they've adjusted these hitboxes quite a bit. But as far as actual hard content, I think that this would be good, because when people are like, man, I deleted like, you know, Maven, the first time that you delete that boss, like you worked for it. But in Diablo, it's not like you work to defeat the boss. It's more so that like in Diablo, you just work to play the most OP thing of like the month, and then you just slap one button and then it just gets deleted if you're playing like the Necro. This is like an off-meta Necro build, by the way, that was on like a PTR. But like you just basically play the build, and then you're just one-shotting the tormented bosses, which is like supposed to be the hardest content in terms of like dropping the mythics, right? So I think like actual hard content that the player defeats and they're like, wow, it feels good, right? That satisfaction of finally taking down that new boss. And then again, the rewards have to be good. I think a scroll of like greater affix would be something that's special, right? That would be brand new. It would kind of help out like, you know, progression in the game, and it's dropping something new in the game that would give you a little bit more progression. And then I think we still need proper leaderboards. Honestly, the Gauntlet is not the leaderboard. Everyone goes to the Pit leaderboard website and you know, checks out what people are playing for the leaderboards. And I think it'd be nice if that was just built into the game. I have no idea at this point why it's still set up for the Gauntlet to be the leaderboard. Like, no one respects the person that uploads rank 1, gauntlet, but pit leaderboards are more viable. So I think that would be the proper leaderboards that people do want, right? That gets people to continuously play the game and kind of allows the meta to kind of be seen by the casuals versus going to a third-party website. I think also one thing that's really missed out on this game is specifically clan support. Like, we have clans, but what the heck do we do with clans? I've been talking about this with Blizzard for quite some time. It's like, what's the point of clans? So they've definitely heard the complaint from me, but like specifically, I think clan battles would be really cool. You can do 1v1s, 2v2s, take over things. I don't know if any of you guys play Diablo Immortal, okay? But Diablo Immortal has more in-depth things than Diablo 4. And well, it's fine. It's a mobile game. People always think that like the flagship game should be better than the mobile game. I think both of them should just be good. But specifically, what is the point of a clan? You have so much good clan support in Diablo Immortal. Why do we have like 0 clan support? All it is another chat box, right? So I think clan battles would be such a good way to implement something, or like a clan stash would be great too. That way you guys can kind of share gear a little bit more. Maybe certain things that cannot be traded could be shared with your clan or something. Again, there's just no point of clans. So basically what I'm asking for is like clan battles, and then also maybe some sort of PvE thing. There's so many things with Diablo Immortal. Literally, just please copy and paste them. I think players would be really excited to kind of get a community going, because video games are much fun with friends. Like, they're just much better. And that is one area where I think Path of Exile loses to Diablo. Diablo's way more like group up friendly because of the way that they have like this party system, and then also just kind of encourages you to play with a group because it's just objectively like stronger and better to play with a group. But yeah, community events I think could be really cool in the game, and I'm specifically talking about players designing items. So like, let's say maybe the rank 1 clan, or the guy that does the highest pit push, he like the highest pit push on Barbarian, that guy gets to design a brand new unique, or something new to be introduced into the game. It could be an aspect. I think that would be really awesome. That way people kind of want to push, and it kind of incorporates the idea that like, oh, I could make an item in a video game. I like that idea. And then also different forms of getting this, like endgame stuff, which I kind of briefly talked about. I just want different forms of endgame content specifically. And like, how we had those malignant tunnels where you could get those other like kind of like occult gems basically. But I think that having other forms of endgame content, even in season 3 we had like these things that we would go to with all these traps and stuff. I don't know why they remove content in the game. I think they should just like add that into the game, and then like you can get some sort of material or something if you want to. Just removing content in Diablo 4 feels always like a backwards idea. Even with like the Abattoir of Zir, that was basically, though, let's be honest, that was basically just pushing pit, so to speak. But specifically just any forms of content that we get, I think they should just like keep it in the base game. Now I get it with like adding vampiric powers and like the witchcraft powers. We can't just keep on adding on top of that because we're getting too much power. But I think that in terms of like the content itself, right, going to those rooms with a bunch of traps and stuff, maybe you can have like a area that you have some sort of special reward for not getting hit by any of the traps or something like that. Just again, more forms of endgame content I think is great. And then I want to see more depth than 2 options on a skill tree. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen every single build in Diablo in terms of like looking at like a skill tree, and it's like, oh well, I can have Hoda do this, or I can have it do this. Okay, I got 2 options really, because how it's designed is the first node is always required, then you get to pick one of 2 nodes, and I just don't get why it's designed like that. I think that they can split the tree and do a lot more cool things. Another thing that I want to see in the future, and to be honest, we'll talk about what's coming out in the future. I will drop a video on this very soon talking about stat items. This is, to be honest, I want to see them. It's actually already kind of planned. I'm not leaking anything that isn't public, but I got some pictures I will share with you guys. It was from Blizzard back when David Kim was one of the leads on Diablo 4. I have all of his like ideas and stuff, but there's pretty much going to be set items. Okay, so this, we don't even have to like ask for Blizzard. It should be happening soon, TM. But anyways, I want to know, what's the point of a yellow and blue items? Like, I get it that the original design of the game was to make some of the other legendaries drop, and like those were like kind of more rare, but I just don't get what the point of a rare item is. Or a yellow item doesn't seem rare. It's like essentially useless in the game because they made it so every single thing that drops, it has to be legendary and it has to be greater affix. Otherwise, it is completely useless for like 90% of your gameplay, right? You can blast in just a couple hours to max level. But also was thinking about like blue items. Could we maybe make a build with blue items? The thing that blue items do, and to kind of explain this, because some people are like, why would you want blue items to be good? So how blue items worked is they would have less like stats, right? Like a yellow item can have like, you know, let's say for example it has like well, now it's different because of the like you have to have a legendary to have extra stats on it. But let's say yellow items roll with 3 things. Okay, for the sake of this video, let's say yellow items can roll with like 3 things, blue items roll with 2 things, but those 2 can roll higher values than the yellow. So if you really want a very specific stat like that, you really just need crit, that can roll higher. Diablo 2 did this excellent, where like you would get like a +3 on an amulet. That was something that normally wouldn't roll. You would normally get like +2 to all skills, but then you can get +3 to cold skills, which is more maybe niche. But like it let you go for a higher number, therefore the blue items could still have value. Otherwise, just delete them out of the game. I don't know if any of you guys remember, but at some point in this game, we had blue glyphs. And I talked about this with Blizzard, and they decided, let's just cut them completely. And if that's their decision, that's cool. But I would rather see like the blue glyphs return and them actually make it so they're viable. Like again, I have no idea why blue glyphs existed, because there was 0 builds in the history of Diablo 4 that used any blue glyphs. What was the point of the blue glyph? I think perhaps the idea originally was that the other glyphs that you would get were very rare, and they just decided, let's just go ahead and make them drop more commonly. I don't know. And I was also thinking about what would be kind of cool also that like it kind of exists in the game. I think hybrid classes would be cool. I don't know if any of you guys have played Guild Wars 1, but I thought that idea was so cool that like you could select your primary class and then secondary class. I think there's like mods with Grim Dawn, probably Torchlight, that do it. But I think having a secondary class is a pretty cool option. Like imagine like getting certain like passives or getting certain abilities to transform as a necromancer to like a, you know, werebear, and then you can get other like items that would be normally for a druid that would revolve around like companions and summons, and you can kind of mix things. I think this opens up the doors for a lot more creativity, which is an area that I feel like Diablo kind of lacks. Diablo 2 had all these really crazy ideas where you could be like a barbarian that could be a transformation druid, or you can run, what's that? I think there's a Runewords beast. You can play a sork and go werebear sork. There's like a lot of more like weird, interesting things that I would really like to see in Diablo's future. So like hybrid or like other like uniques that really shift up the game, not a unique item that says 500x damage to this skill, if that makes any sense. But I also wanted to touch upon this. I've leveled up 5 characters, by the way, this season. I think it needs to be alt friendlier. Now they have kind of been making steps towards it, like your, you know, witchcraft powers make it easier, and the leveling process is totally fine. They did a great job on that, but I think that it takes too long to level up the glyphs, again, if you're playing 5 characters. And I would say maybe there could be some system. I don't know if any of you guys played Marvel Rivals, Marvel Heroes, that had like a really cool system where like if you were to kind of like level up secondary characters. But in Diablo 3 we kind of have the gems. It'd be cool if like these glyphs were kind of like account bound, so to speak, like as in they would all kind of level up. Like maybe they could do it in a special way where like if you make an alt character and you've already made a character and you hit, let's say, like Paragon 250 or 200 or something, that like all your glyphs on other characters are at least like level 30 or let's say 46, so that you get the bonus, because it is actually pretty rough to level up a character and then leveling up the glyphs again. I think that a lot of people may skip out on that, and this could actually, you know, help revenue a little bit too, because I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, a lot of people only play like 1 class a season because like they just get burnt out, right? But if you made it a little bit easier, people would maybe visit the shop. And like, for example, there's actually another thing I want to mention. Druid in the shop, it's kind of rough to like want to buy any druid skins, because most of the builds you either wear bear or wear wolf, because all of these bonuses kind of revolve around it. But like if you make people want to play multiple classes a season, I think this could encourage people. If they were to look at the shop, right, they could at least see all of the skins from all the classes. Otherwise, you're getting like 1/6 of the player base to see the skin, because of like they're playing Spiritborn that season, or this season they're playing only Necromancer because it's the most OP class, right? Then they're only looking at Necromancer skins. So that would help and incentivize them to maybe make it more alt friendly, because then you get more eyes on the shop if they do browse the shop to check out more than just one class. But anyways, those are my suggestions. I'm curious to know your guys' feedback. What do you guys think? Did I miss out anything that you guys think is really cool of an idea, or do you want to mention any things that I've mentioned and branch up off the idea? Let me know down below. But thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts, and if you're new here and you want to see more of these discussion videos and more Diablo and action RPG goodness, hit subscribe, turn the bell, and you'll definitely see more. But take care. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.